No A Steve. I'm sitting here expecting to say A Steve. There is no A
Whoa!
Steve. Whoa?
Oh, I'm hearing double.
Oh no, you shouldn't be.
No, not from you. It's because I had YouTube just going.
Oh, okay. There we go. Okay.
Yeah,
We already got AV Hobbies in chat.
I see you.
He's not showing up unfortunately on the stream yet. Hopefully that'll change once someone types something. Um, yeah, spontaneous stream, just over, what was it, yesterday? I was like, you know what? We got to have a conversation tomorrow. We got to talk about stuff tomorrow. Which is kind
There's a
of,
lot to talk about.
yeah, it's kind of the template actually, even for, so cat's out of the bag. We are aiming to record it next Tuesday. Uh, Gonna be doing the last episode of A Steve. A Steve, as we know, it's going to be no more. Um, but instead, I'm going to try doing this rambling with RamblePak thing. And basically, I want to have it's more of a one-on-one focus, but I want to have different people that I'm able to invite on and talk to and kind of specialize the discussion content. So, like, I want to invite Misfit Waferton on here and we can talk about anime, how she got into anime, stuff like that, and then the VTubing world, because she is an independent VTuber. Um, or, there are some other creators that I'd like to try and invite and interact with that, not everyone can be Seamus Young. I can't like he actually agreed to be on stream with a nobody like me. Um, so, but there's just different people that it's like different specialized content that we can like have specialized discussions with, and that includes Steve. Because I realized me and him never got to do our podcast where we talked about like the original trilogy of Star Wars, like we did the
That was a
the
topic
prequel.
that kept coming up.
Well, it's like the prequel trilogy. We did one podcast per prequel movie, and it was interesting because like he's kind of the defender. I'm sitting there as the like if I could be a script doctor to this. Um, but that's I so that's the aim. There's not going to be like a set schedule for rambling with RamblePak. But it is something I want to do. I don't know if I'm going to keep it to this channel or if I will move Rambling with RamblePak to the main channel. That's something I'm still uh, tossing around. We'll see. But for this, that's just one of two. I don't know if we want to announce yet what we are going to try and have a regular podcast, you and I. I still need to create all the fancy little stuff for that. But yes, you and I are going to be doing a podcast as well. So
Yep. That'll be silly.
So that's Rambling with RamblePak. It is going to be something along those lines, like this simple format. Nothing overly complicated, nothing complex, just this fun little conversation thing, because I don't want streaming to be like my main content, but I do like having conversations and talking with people. So I'm hoping to make more of that, do more of that. Now, for the very first topic, which, one moment, I realized I forgot. Oh, wait. I can finally unplug this son of a gun. My headset's
So it's
actually
not dying on you
charged.
midstream.
My headset's actually charged, and yes, the chat is working. Cool. Thank you for helping confirm Mr. AV Hobby's pure stench. So what
While you're doing that, I'm gonna crack open my Imperial
Nope.
Stout inspired by Mexican hot chocolate.
Maybe I should get like t-shirt sponsorships. Just lower the camera a bit. Be like, this is my new Yeti t-shirt of Samus and everything. It's all fancy. Start like showing off
some band called
some
Frozen
band t-shirt.
Dawn.
I think I've heard of them. I might have heard them even at some point.
It's pretty good stuff. Melodic, blackened death metal. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
It's a dark beer.
I should have gotten myself some water. I was in a bit of a rush. But our first topic, actually, the reason I chose this little image this graphic of an old Sonic the Hedgehog ad is because I have been rereading one of my favorite books, Console Wars. Thick volume of just information, and what's fascinating about this is it mostly follows a fellow named Tom Kalinske, who was brought into Sega of America to help
Ah,
make them a viable, like to make the Genesis sell. And there is so much information, and every time I read this, I can't help but you and I have discussed we'll call it your relationship with books, where you think most of them, the prose isn't written well, or at least not in an interesting manner. They're not interesting to actually read. But for me, a lot of it is like the
well, really,
information.
for me, it's just my ADD. Like,
Or there's that.
it's my ADD. Like, I'll be reading a book, but then oddly enough, the one book that caught my attention in high school, of all things,
Well,
was the Scarlet Effing Letter.
which you told me that, and I was like, hold on, you of all people. But no,
I don't get it either. Actually, no, I do get it, but it wasn't because of the story. It was because of how it was written. I had to pay attention in order to kind of understand what he was saying.
So this book though, like, because I've watched a bunch of different things on the history of the making of Sonic, the history of this, and of course
Sure.
we both lived through the '90s. We've lived through the original console wars, which is a weird
They
phrasing.
were my personal Vietnam.
Why?
If you know, you know.
Speaking of YouTube drama, we'll get to some of that later. But no, like there's like I keep reading like pages of this book, and it's so packed with information that you honestly can't really deliver in video format. Like you would have to make a really long documentary series just on everything in this book. Like
Sure.
it says what is this? Like something about like a movie now. And it's like a documentary movie. The downside, like the downside is the forward is by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, but you don't have to read the forward. You can ignore the forward. You don't have to acknowledge the forward even exists.
You
But
can just rip the pages out even.
like I am tempted to just sit here and read some because like there's so much stuff from when we were kids, right? That and actually, how many years younger than me are you? Because I'm 38. How old are you again?
I'm 34, so you've got like that at least 3.5 years on me.
Okay, so
Give or take.
1991, I was like 6, so I was barely remembering stuff. You would have been 2. Yeah.
Yup. And you know what I was
So,
doing at age 2, baby? Playing video games.
oh, I
Legit.
thought your mom didn't want you playing games or
I mean, that didn't stop my dad from
oh,
putting a
there you
controller in
go.
my hand.
There you go.
I mean,
Um,
like in all honesty, the actual first video game I ever played was Super Mario Land on the Game Boy.
okay.
And I think I was actually still able to play that game without being able to speak or really walk yet. I think I was able to understand what was going on by pressing those two buttons of the D-pad,
You would
according to
have
my dad.
you would have been if you were 2, you would have been walking. But anyways, it's
If I was two, I would
semantics,
have been walking. But I
semantics and
mean,
all that.
before
But
then, I was playing because two is when I can remember Sonic because
okay,
that
because
is
that's
when
when
it
it was
came out.
new. That's when it was new. Yeah,
Yep.
because that's the thing. Like most of this story takes place, end of 1990, mid to end of 1990, into 1991, and I'm at the 1991 phase where it's like they're just releasing Sonic the Hedgehog. They're beating the release of the Super Nintendo, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff that is interesting to look at in hindsight. Like retailers actually hated Nintendo, but they reluctantly worked with Nintendo because, well, they made money. But you had
hmm
to deal with Nintendo's demands. Now, Nintendo's demands make a lot of sense, even to like, and again, it's like even professed by Kalinske. The dude was now in charge of the competitor, but even for him, he understands like okay, they have this limit. Like third parties can only release up to 5 games a year.
Yep.
You'd have to submit your game, and Nintendo would usually send it back with changes that you had to make before you could release it. Your game might not even be approved to release at all, kind of a thing. And this is all that Nintendo seal of approval thing. It wasn't just a marketing sticker.
No.
They wanted to prevent another crash from happening. So the measures they took were incredibly totalitarian, and yet at the same time, those measures saved the games industry, or at least, let's not say saved, let's say revived and maintained. It allowed the games industry to exist. Of course, you
Yeah,
also have,
it's like with any other industry, you have quality control, and Nintendo was trying to do that. I mean, that video game crash happened for a reason. It's because like there was just so much garbage out there, and that counts as hardware too. It wasn't just software.
oh
You know,
yeah,
we look at the Intellivision. Why did the controller have a number pad and like a disc that you spun around that didn't make any sense? And then ColecoVision soon after that, which had an attachment that could play Atari games, which is its competitor. Like that that shouldn't be allowed, really.
yeah. Well, that's the funny thing because we had a ColecoVision. It ended up breaking, but that was our first. That was my first exposure to
Shocker.
video games. Was the ColecoVision, and I played Donkey Kong on that. And the funny thing
Oh boy.
is, I played Donkey Kong when I was 3 years old, couldn't beat the first board. I forget how old I was when I found out there was more than one board. I was like, wait, you mean that's not the end of the game? Like,
It's just world shattered.
it was just, but beyond that, it's like there's just so much. And then again, it's just looking at their marketing decisions and the guys that were behind the marketing. Oh, actually, I remember what I wanted to read. I wanted to read because it's something that is so 90s and made so much sense to me. I wanted to just
Oh
read
boy.
it. Well, it shows how smart Kolinsky was as a marketing guy, and he helped Mattel. Like his big days were at Mattel, but
Okay.
the board was his enemy there. But this is a guy that understands marketing, understands how to sell something, and also how to sell to someone. And let's see. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I find because he's given a commercial that was absolutely awful. And not there. Here we go. Week 9, Humans Against Genesis. So this is again their big summer marketing blitz, where they're trying to get the Sega Genesis, even in Mr. ZTB 5004. I'm about to read it.
That's gotta be Zach.
That's gotta be. You know what? It sounds like it is. You're right. It probably is. About to read the excerpt from the book Console Wars. The summer, middle of the summer, where Tom Kalinske, now like I think it was president of Sega of America, but lead marketing guy. They have an ad company that just sent them a commercial that is supposed to sell the Sega Genesis. Play it again, Kalinske instructed during a meeting between Sega's marketing team and account executives from Bozell, the advertising agency that Michael Katz had worked with to create Sega's previous Nintendo campaign. The executives are presenting the first national Sonic the Hedgehog commercial. In the spot, a fashionably bespectacled woman dressed like a librarian sits at a desk and speaks to the camera in a saintly, nun-like tone of voice. As the president of a fictitious organization called HAG, Humans Against Genesis, she denounces Sonic for his blazing speed and smarty pants attitude, and ends by asking why he can't be more like that nice boy Mario. After running the ad for a second time, the executive stopped the tape. So, he asked expectantly. Now, at this point, this sounds like so many of the stupid commercials we grew up with in the 90s. Again, like the whole
Yeah.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch thing where it's like, can grown-ups see why kids love Cinnamon Toast Crunch? And it's
Yeah.
I don't know about you, man, but I remember being a kid and being like, dude, grown-ups made this commercial. Like this
See, Those commercials were not for me because I did not really care for cereal as a kid. It's just I preferred like, you know, pancakes and like
Well, yeah, I mean,
like and waffles and like it used to have spam, but like spam or bacon. Listen, man, sometimes we're hard, okay?
Eggos are a good thing. Well, I mean, if you want, you might even mean real waffles, right? But it's like Eggos were good. I'd rather
My
have.
mom had we had a waffle maker, yeah, but occasionally we would have the not Eggo, but I would have Aunt Jemima, which is now known as Pearl Milling Company, and that's a conversation for another day. But we had Aunt Jemima pancakes or waffles, and those were tasty. It was fine, you know. Throw some butter on it, I was happy.
But that's the thing. Like already, I'm reading this, and I'm thinking of all those dumb '90s ads that were supposed to be like, "Kids aren't adults, lame." So the book continues. As all eyes redirected toward Kalinsky, he remained silent for a moment. So, Kalinsky finally said emotionlessly, matching the executive's cadence, "That about sums it up. So what? So this woman is telling us to ignore Sonic and we're supposed to care? What's the point of this?" Kalinsky looked around. "I mean it. What's the point of this commercial? What's the message? What do we want people to feel when they watch this?" The room was stunned into silence. They had never seen Kalinsky like this before, at least not in the office. He continued on, questioning the reason for the commercial's existence, not in a particularly cruel way, but not in a particularly kind way either. "It's supposed to be funny," an executive finally said in defense. "Yes," Kalinsky said, "it's supposed to be funny. But this is just derivative. It's an obvious ripoff of Saturday Night Live's church lady. But at least she's less likable. She's prissy without any glimpse of warmth. She's angry on the outside, not the inside, and that makes the hag joke fall flat." And it continues on from there. But it's like a little glimpse of the cluelessness of so much marketing at the time. And why Kalinsky, like what made Sega really stand out, and what for me is interesting looking in hindsight is the marketing. The Kalinsky and his marketing team is what made Sonic work. And this is where for me it ends up being probably a back and forth, because like in hindsight, why was I never sold on Sonic even as a kid? And the biggest reason is when I played Sonic, I tried to play it like a Mario game, which means of course I wasn't going to enjoy it. Because and especially reading this book, it's one of the things they point out, you know, like they get a Super Famicom from Japan in order to do research, and they play Super Mario World. They want to see what they're up against, and they're not impressed at Sega. Like they're sitting here like, it's more of the same. Like it's a good game, but it's more of the same. There's no surprises.
Sure.
And so they look at that as a weakness. And you can tell reading this book, like throughout the industry, that is a weakness. Something else that also helped, all the other gaming magazines that weren't Nintendo Power didn't like Nintendo either, because they saved the best content for Nintendo Power. So having Sega there meant Sega could go wine and dine and, you know, talk with these guys and share information with them. And that in turn would give a lot of these magazines new exclusive information on upcoming games. So it's this interesting look back at history. But the thing that I find interesting is, again, like, if it weren't for the marketing and how they presented Sonic the Hedgehog, which again, if it weren't for Sega of America, he would have completely fallen flat. Like you read his original character design and you're like, oh gosh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I really do think this, like, what I underestimated was the speed of Sonic back in 1991 was going to look impressive. Because, again, Mario was a good game. And I think when it comes to the idea of aging well, I do believe Mario World did age better. But
than the first Sonic?
Yes. Well,
oh, absolutely.
Admittedly,
absolutely.
I would admittedly even say Sonic 3, but people keep telling me I'm wrong about that. But I think the problem is
being a fan of both, it's tough. It's tough for me, you know.
But the thing is, I missed that as a kid because I was trying to collect all the rings. I was trying to explore the entire map, and I was getting frustrated. Now as an adult and I try and go through the flow, I'm older and I'm used to other more polished games, like even from like even some of my favorite Super Nintendo games at the time. It's like you go back to them now and it's like, oh man, I remember this being a lot more smooth and polished.
Oh yeah.
No, the first
Was,
draft of Sonic
was it
for
like rose tinted glasses?
I'm just telling Mr. Zach here. The first draft of Sonic for the movie was he didn't have fangs for one. He didn't have a leather jacket. He didn't have all kinds of other trying to make him look cool things. He didn't have
Human girlfriend, by the
a
way.
human girlfriend. Yes.
Which eventually did happen and was terrible.
She didn't look like oh my gosh, I'm just remembering the Conker's Bad Fur Day commercial. Oh my
I
gosh.
think. All right, quick tangent. Did you ever like? Did you watch like Channel One News in middle school or anything like that? That just brought back some garbage, didn't it?
I never paid attention because I had my Game Boy or my Game Boy Advance or my music player. But it was always playing. Yes, I remember what you mean. I know Channel One News. Yes.
Yeah, because that's like because my middle school had a had like a partnership with them and whatever, and they would send us videos and they would like show us news, but they also had some commercials. I'm pretty sure there was an ad for Conker's Bad Fur Day playing during that.
With a chick with a thong and everything on it, or like what?
No,
Okay, not that
one.
one. Not that
The
one.
one where like the squirrel is like beating his foot against like the dresser. Um,
Okay, I don't remember that one.
I remembered that because I'm pretty sure I saw that in school and I was like,
You know what?
really? Nobody? Okay.
No, even the one that I'm thinking of. Now that I think about it, it's like because I was a good little Christian boy. I didn't watch a lot of channels that weren't going to be for like children's entertainment. Like my
Bro,
background
I was watching South Park in third grade, man.
Well, that's the thing. I'm thinking about Conker's Bad Fur Day, and maybe it was during something like Simpsons, right? Maybe it was during something like the Simpsons hours. But like, I
Okay.
basically, I might have that might have been a really misplaced ad. Now that I think about it, the one because I only
Well,
remember the one Conker's Bad Fur Day commercial, and it's like, oh, oh. I hope they didn't place that during hours they shouldn't have.
well, they because like they were implying that they were doing something that only adults do, but really like the girl was just scratching his cheek and he was just like beating his foot against the dresser.
Oh yeah. Well, maybe she wasn't in a thong. Maybe it was just hot pants. But I remember something that I was like young and I was like, oh my.
Yeah,
But
it was pretty racy.
Yeah, it was. It definitely was.
But
But no,
anyway,
that's so. If I were to recommend you a book, this book is one I would recommend because you have a softer spot for Sega than I do. So, and I feel like anyone that has a soft spot for Sega and Sonic in particular, this book is a must read because it is so full of information. It's also just an interesting way to capture that time period. Just because again, like I lived through that as a kid, you know, all the Sega and Genesis, and where I lived, the Genesis was the dominant console, which I know you said you were surprised at. And honestly, I was surprised to see the numbers when I was older that yeah, the Genesis still did not match the total sales of the Super Nintendo in the long run.
nah, and that kind of made sense to me, like because Sega always had this trajectory, right? They would be the first out to market, and but their competition was just technologically advanced. They were much more forward thinking.
At the same time,
So
that didn't matter as much in 1991 and 1992.
no,
Because that's the thing. The Genesis was first to market, but it may as well have launched in summer 1991 alongside the Super Nintendo. But it is also interesting because what you also have is the cultural divide between Sega of America and Sega of Japan. I think the real death knell, the real shot in the foot for Sega was that Sega of America and Sega of Japan wanted to reel in and make Sega of America more obedient. They wanted Sega of America to sell the console in America, but at the same time, they wanted to keep doing things Sega of Japan way. Nintendo, I think, might have been a little different, though. Again, like reading, holy cow! Like Yamauchi, as the president of Nintendo at the time in the '90s, dude was cutthroat. He was like old fashioned Japanese feudal lord kind of stuff. Like that's the thing. Like
That's dope.
the backstory to dropping Sony for PlayStation from PlayStation and going to Philips, like that summer, I think it was a summer Consumer Electronics Show, 1991 again, where Sony had already announced their partnership with Nintendo on the PlayStation, and then that very day, later in the morning, Nintendo's like, and our CD attachment with Philips, and no mention of Sony at all. And
Ugh.
yeah, it's like, holy cow. And the backstory to that is in 1988, Nintendo signed some kind of a deal with Sony. And the contract, because contracts in Japan are a little different than America, the contract was written in a way that with Sony getting more into the multimedia and gaming business, it would allow them too much control. So being able to just end the contract willy-nilly, given how it was written, Yamauchi decided to just cancel the contract, not even acknowledge it, and intentionally wanted to humiliate Sony. It's like, oh man, again, super Japanese feudal of you. It's like, holy cow. That is nuts. But
I oftentimes think about the trajectory video games would have taken if Nintendo and Sony teamed up. Like,
it might have been interesting. It might have been very different too. I mean, who knows? Because in some, like, reading this, in some ways, it is one of those things where Nintendo did need the humble pie.
Yeah.
And it's funny because in some ways, reading some of these stories and then thinking about what's going on today, like evidently, rumor is that Sony's going to double down on certain Square Enix exclusivity deals, which means Square Enix themselves aren't learning. It's like, congratulations. Final Fantasy 16 didn't meet expectations. Good job. That's what you get. Like, but no.
Square Enix never learns. Let's be real. But every now and then they put out a banger, which we have the new Mana game coming out, and that looks awesome.
What's interesting about that too? Because like I talked to a buddy of mine, right? Because our Secret of Mana remake was kind of meh. It wasn't very good.
No.
But then Trials of Mana gets this huge remake, and I feel like there's two reasons for it. One of which being that's the one they're nostalgic for in Japan, right? Like you only know about Seiken Densetsu 3 in America or Europe or whatever if you were big into emulators and you were that kind of niche core guy that was going to look for it and try and play a ROM of it.
That was my one of my roommates in college. Like he was one of them.
And then you have everyone else who just remembers Secret of Mana, and that's what they're nostalgic for.
And that's the second one, right? Because the first one was on Game Boy.
Yes,
right?
The first one was Final Fantasy Adventure.
Gotcha.
So Secret of Mana,
oh boy,
Secret of Mana is the one that's huge huge for nostalgia in the West. Trials of Mana had huge nostalgia in Japan. So putting the full remake into Trials of Mana, like putting more of the effort there, not only meets the nostalgia for Japan, but also is like we get to pretend we're releasing a brand new game in the West in this franchise. So it's an interesting double. But if you watch that trailer for Visions of Mana, I guarantee you, for the interest of more of greater international sales, the music, the character designs, everything about the vibe of it, it feels, even some of the monsters, right? Like the mantis bug boss, they're going for that secret amount of nostalgia. And it's funny
Yeah.
because your girlfriend, little Miss Maccabeak, was giving us crap for, mocking the Jurassic Park survival trailer. But the thing is, again, like the Visions of
Was
Mana,
deserved.
the Visions of Mana trailer is still promising something different. It's trying to hit those notes, but it's not like, it is not literally remember this. It's not literally
Yeah.
remember in the kitchen when she knocked the spoon over. It's not literally that. It's not literally trying to recreate the original thing.
Right. This was it was using iconography rather than just callbacks.
Familiar motifs, you could say.
Yep. You got that big tree that's like Yggdrasil.
Well, that's just
Except
part of the
not.
franchise, yeah. But no, again, it's like you listen to like the piano and some of the music, and it's like it's almost the main theme from Secret of Mana. And it's not like it's a
Yeah.
franchise theme, right? It's not like a shared song like Final Fantasy has. The Secret of Mana soundtrack is specifically the Secret of Mana soundtrack, but they're going for that vibe.
Right.
But that's again the book Console Wars by Blake Harris. Again highly recommend it to anybody interested in Sega's history. So next topic, this Saturday I saw Godzilla Minus One.
Let's go.
And let me tell you, man, this was a good movie. Now,
It was
I
a
am
good movie.
biased. I am biased. Like, as we were talking, like, beforehand, like, I am the Godzilla fan. Now, that doesn't guarantee I'll like anything Godzilla. Again, speaking
Listen.
of, what was it, 1991? Like, my least favorite Godzilla movie might be Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, the Heisei era one. That one is so
Okay.
stupid. And it's funny because it feels like this is where it's getting its background lore from, because that's where it's like there's a World War II island where they discover a dinosaur that they name Godzillasaurus, and that's the dinosaur that gets nuked and becomes Godzilla. But what's worse is there's like an American naval ship where there's like, again, it's like, what is it? It's like, they're not called private in the Navy. I can't remember what they're called, but it's like Private Spielberg.
Yeah,
Maybe you could tell your kids about this one day or something like. It's like, oh my god, they named him Spielberg. Really? Spielberg wasn't even alive during World War II. What? Like,
Oh, that's funny.
it's all this awful stuff. But no, but yeah, Godzilla Minus One. It is a good movie. I wish I could say it's like, one of the best movies this year, but I haven't seen many movies this year. But I also haven't seen many movies this year because I'm not interested in most movies, just in general anymore.
Hey, I feel that.
But Godzilla Minus One is, I mean, it feels like what a movie's supposed to be. And also, again, $15 million budget. Well, converted, $15 million budget. This movie looks good.
It
And
was
yet,
only $15 million.
that's what happens when you're not paying ridiculous Hollywood actor prices. Also, you probably don't have to
I
deal
mean,
with
yeah.
unions. You probably don't have like union prices and other things that you got to pay. But yeah, $15 million. And when you think about it, it doesn't actually have a lot of locations. It does use sets. And honestly, for me, I like that. I like having verisimilitude. I like when you see characters on a set, even if you recognize it's a set, it's a physical space that they are interacting with. There's something tangible about it. It's better than a green screen and then a color filter applied over everything to help it blend together. It was definitely good. Now I do have some qualms with it, but the qualms are minor. And again, it's like in comparison to other Godzilla movies. So I will let you give your thoughts first.
So I went in not really being aware of the marketing, had like I remember hearing rumblings about it, but I didn't know that it was coming out or that even it was out. And Jen was like, "Hey, let's have a date night," and I was like, "Hey, you know what? That's a great idea." And let's go see a movie. And then she hears about um Godzilla Minus One, and it was the opening night. I was like, oh, all right, let's go check it out. I went in because normally when I want to see a kaiju movie, I haven't, and I'm not a kaiju movie connoisseur. All right, I've watched the original Ultraman series. I own it and I love it. Um, and I I saw the 1998 Godzilla movie, but that doesn't count.
That's not a kaiju
Also, I
movie.
was
That's a disaster movie, but it's not a disaster. It's a Roland Emmerich disaster movie, but it's the disaster of a franchise, is what it is.
it's a disaster in every single way, genre, and also it is a disaster. But anyway, uh, and I watched Pacific Rim, and I've seen my fair share of Power Rangers battles. All right, like I'm not a connoisseur in any way, shape, or form, but I went into this movie wanting, it's like, all right, I'm gonna be entertained by some big monsters beating the hell out of each other, and I got way more than that. I got way more than that. I got an emotional story that I did not expect to receive. And this is the kind of story that I love in media. I love it in video games when I experienced an emotional story in Near Automata without even knowing that was going to happen, or at least not to the level that I had experienced. And then this movie really hit me with like, oh, you thought this was going to be a big dumb movie? You thought wrong, baby. Like I was pleasantly surprised, and I enjoyed it a lot. My only gripe with it, and this is probably the theater, was, oh my god, the sound production was like, when it was loud, it was like I thought my ears were just gonna explode. I thought my eardrums were just gonna just rupture because whew.
My theater didn't have that much of an issue. Yeah.
Dude, this was loud. This
Ooh.
was so loud. It was booming. But at the same time, it was like it made the experience all the more, and I hate this term because I think it's full of BS. It made it more immersive. I felt like I was being, threatened by how loud it was. I was actually experiencing something called sensory overload, which I have never experienced before. And this movie is like screaming at me. But I'm glad it did because it really enhanced the experience.
Threatening is a good word too, because one of the things that, especially one of the guys I watch is Big Action Bill. He does a lot of Godzilla content on his YouTube channel, and he did a spoiler-free review after he saw it in Japan. And one of his big things was, this is like Godzilla's malicious in this.
Yeah.
He is a hateful beast in this. It's like he wants to murder. He actively wants to kill people. And that is fitting. It does lead to one of my odd gripes though. And it's funny because it's only a gripe because of what I feel to be consistency. And our friend AV Hobbies Pure Stench is talking about the sound was intense for him too. Got stuck in the first two rows. What a good sound design. Few tropes with sound design, but still.
I heard some, like, not royalty free sounds, but definitely some sounds that I've heard in other movies before, but it was never like distracting. And I think that just lends itself to just how well crafted everything around, around that particular sound was. So I'm not going to knock it too hard.
And again, this is partially my Godzilla fan when it comes to not sound related gripe, but when it comes to the behavior of Godzilla. And it's nothing like he acted too different, he was too angry. It's nothing stupid like that. It's more that you'd see him in this, dinosaur bestial animation and movement, And then suddenly he's got this stiff suit walking animation. And it's like going from the one to the next felt so jarring to me that it felt like they needed to ditch that stiff suit animation walking for this film, for this Godzilla, right? Like, go whole hog. Don't stick to that for purity reasons. Go whole hog. All right, like it was great in Shin Godzilla, which I again like I do prefer Shin Godzilla still, but again it's for other reasons, not necessarily plot reasons. But for Shin Godzilla, they intentionally had the movement be as if it's like a puppet or someone in a suit. They wanted to maintain that original style of Godzilla's movement, and so they were consistent throughout the entire film. This film went different, and I'm fine with that because Godzilla didn't feel. It's not like the newer Godzilla, like Godzilla 2014, perfectly fine as well. That he doesn't move like he's in a suit in Godzilla 2014, but some of the movement they get in the later legendary MonsterVerse movies, it starts to feel, especially by King Kong and Godzilla, like that's where it starts to really get weird. And you get a sense that it's not what it's being made by people that don't actually get Godzilla. But this one, the guy clearly gets it. And again, like the director, the writer, director, and visual effects guy, he had done another movie that was humorously enough more of a romance movie, but you can definitely see those elements. You can definitely see where that works in here. But
Yeah, you can.
in that movie, there's a dream sequence where the guy wakes up and Godzilla's attacking. And it's like a legit mini Godzilla movie sequence. And
That's funny.
that's probably why they went to this guy and were like, would you like to make a Godzilla movie?
That's funny.
But that does, again, it does, before I move on, let's see. The charge in particular with the unlocked noise of the spines. Very fair point, Ramble. Also, he had a dumpy.
He did though.
Shin was insane. If they put the dude's full script ideas into Shin Godzilla, we would all be freaked out. And I'm glad they cut him off where they did. Hideaki Anno, yes, Evangelion Man. And before that, he was Gunbuster Man. He did a lot of stuff with Studio Gainax before. He did a lot of good animation too. Hideaki Anno is mostly known for Evangelion. He's done a lot of other stuff though. There are some of his live action films from before Shin Godzilla and before the Evangelion rebuilds that I would like to see. But that's the thing, his direction style, and that's the thing, like cinephile me thinks Shin Godzilla is just more interestingly shot. Like everything about the pacing of Shin Godzilla, it is fast paced. It moves. It has all of these fascinating camera angles. Every single shot has motion in it. Like it is just such a well put together film that you do not get as often these days. You do not get directors that put that kind of attention into framing and blocking and just all of this good stuff that makes it a good film to watch. But plot wise, that one is definitely less character focused and more plot oriented. So that is a plot driven film. And especially because, again, Hideaki Anno had a point. He wanted to make a point about the Japanese government and how it deals with disasters after recent disasters that Japan went through. This director told a more character driven story. And that, now that I think about it, is interesting because, again, like, if we go through the history of Godzilla's more serious movies, the original Godzilla, about the nuclear bomb, and Japan's reaction to it. Godzilla Returns, which was named Godzilla 1985 in America. It was a combination of the youth in Japan losing that touch with World War II and that touch with the trauma of the nuclear weapons on Japan's soil. And at the same time, it was about being caught between the US and Russia during the Cold War. Shin Godzilla. It's about it's a response to the Japanese government, again, the Fukushima disaster and all that stuff. So these are all very deep, meaningful, you could even say political films.
Hmm.
Godzilla Minus One. Not as much. I do think it does have a deeper meaning, especially with the thing is, it's hard to really get a good gauge of. I feel like in some ways, when it comes to reading about what is the cultural vibe of Japan today, sometimes we're as much as 5 years behind because let's face it, who's really talking about it? People are talking about the games and the anime. Nobody's talking
Sure.
about the culture and the society. Um, we do know things like birth rates are really low. We do know there's a lot of depression there. Actually, one of the best,
Loneliness is essentially an epidemic.
yes, and one of the best actual examinations of what's going on in Japan right now is, of all things, Agretsuko, the anime.
Yeah.
They cover a lot of stuff that I'm kind of surprised they do. I was like, oh, dang, you're really going there. Okay. Like
Yep.
the people living in the net cafes instead of having apartments, like stuff like that. Godzilla minus Hikikomori.
I mean, I mean, they could make a topic out of that.
But and yeah,
I
he's still
there's a
going
point.
off on what Shin Godzilla was supposed to have in there.
Yeah,
But no,
I think minus one does have a good point, but it's more of I don't think it's as like a political statement though.
no,
Um,
it's definitely, and it's also broader, right? Because in a lot of ways, it's about that value of living. Like if I had
I
to,
would say it's more about well, it's the value of living, but also perseverance in like in the wake and rebuilding after destruction. You know,
yeah,
when something major happens, because like when something major happens in your life, and it can actually be just completely destructive. It can just ruin you. But with perseverance, you can overcome. You can rebuild, and things can be, if you really work hard enough, if you really put the effort towards it, better than before. Better than before things went sour. And that's the way I look. It's actually a lot more of an uplifting story than probably other movies, at least based on what you described.
well, also due to sincerity, it's not a postmodern
And yeah,
film.
it's sincere too.
It's not trying to be postmodern. It's not trying to be ironic. It's not trying to have some kind of clever wink. It is a sincere film about facing adversity and perseverance. And honestly, even our country, it's like that's something that we need right now. And that's what
Yep.
honestly I feel is part of the problem of what Hollywood has been failing to deliver. Because especially even the Marvel movies aren't really delivering that, right? Like,
So
uh
it's
oh,
funny you mentioned that.
oh no,
It, it's well, no. I'm gonna take us back in time because what was like one of the first big movies to happen after 9/11? Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
yes, it had to be edited. You're right.
It had to be edited, but like, and they added, like, they clearly added some things in to give some kind of, you know, American pride after we were dealt such a horrific blow, and thousands and thousands of lives were just lost in such a short amount of time. It's it, we given
So
everything that's going on nowadays, we have not had anything like that. What was this dude saying?
I'm laughing at
Oh,
the Marvel movies right now. um,
I mean, I'm pretty over that. But we haven't had anything like that. We
it's
we
either
haven't really
too
had
it's either too
something that's been
corporate.
uplifting.
It's either too corporate or again like here. Okay, so this not not going deep into it because I'm not going to see it. I have no interest in seeing it, and I have no interest in seeing it regardless of whatever
Oh,
red or blue column you want to check mark. Right?
oh, which one?
The
Which
Barbie
movie?
movie. The Barbie movie,
Oh,
everything I know about it is like postmodern. It's not a feel good movie. It's not a feel bad movie, but it's like it's this movie that's so postmodern and about movies and about itself. It's not something like this where you can come away from this film and feel inspired,
yeah.
right?
I mean, I think that was also the point of the Barbie movie. It was just like, ah ha ha, we're gonna make you think that this is like some kids movie about some little product for little girls, and it
Oh no,
ends
I
up making
knew.
you feel like trash at the end.
I mean, I knew. Firstly, the trailer is basically like framing it like the Brady Bunch '90s movie was, where the whole joke was like the irony of the Brady Bunch being in the '90s. But unlike the Brady Bunch of the '90s, I knew that the Barbie movie was going to have something else up its sleeve. But the thing is,
But you know who
I don't
didn't know?
I don't know the specifics, and honestly, I don't care the specifics. Because again, like even if it was what it marketed itself as, I would not be interested. But that's not
Yeah, but you know
like
who didn't know that? The general public.
this is true. This is true.
So,
So I mean, the thing is,
we knew because it was a tongue going through the cheek.
but that's the thing. Like I don't.
Anyway,
But that's the thing. Like I just want to say, like again, the movie was not what this is, which is
right.
or what Spider-Man was. It's like they're not just trying to make a story that's a good story anymore. And that's so much of what Hollywood is right now. Um, so for me, yeah, it's like Godzilla Minus One, really good. I've got some issues with the ending, but I mean like the very, very ending, I should say, like the last couple minutes. But
We're not going to go into
we're not going to
spoilers.
go into there. But I will say the final confrontation with Godzilla, that is one area that is done way better than Shin Godzilla. Shin Godzilla was
It
like,
was
we're gonna have trains go after him and put stuff in his mouth, and it was always the weakest part of Shin Godzilla. It's like Shin Godzilla is so great, and then you get to the end, and it's like, and this one though, it's like their entire plan and everything. It's like, oh wow, oh wow, this actually sounds like smart ideas and interesting and it's clever and not what anyone's ever done with Godzilla before.
yeah.
And it turned out to be it AV Hobbies, what are you writing in there? Is that your phone? Is that your phone? Like is that like why are you typing like that? Sorry. Anyways, coagulant, that's what it was. They were pumping the coagulant into I mean some of it was still shot in a cool way, but it's still like that might have been one of the lamest ways to try and take out Godzilla that I've seen. But either way, Godzilla Minus One, definitely highly recommended. I definitely enjoyed
Enjoyed it
it.
a lot.
And again, I think this is a story that a lot of people will enjoy, whether you're a Godzilla fan or not. Um, Honestly, I feel like this is probably most comparable to Godzilla 24. Like this and Godzilla 2014 feel like similar camps to me, which some people might consider blasphemy. But I don't know. It's like there's just something about it. Something about it. But this is definitely on the better spectrum because the characters are actually good. Um, and I have a soft spot for Godzilla 2014, but the characters are devices to be used to get from one point to the next in Godzilla 2014. So it was
It's
a
more of a
good
convenient
reactor
kind of
going
thing.
to. It makes sense if you enjoy Godzilla. It's like a reactor going into meltdown. The ending of Minus One boiled down to our plan is crap, but let's try it anyway. Maybe I should have you on a stick and rambling with RamblePak AV Hobbies, and you could just
Oh,
go to
dude,
town on everything. I'll just sit here, lean back, and you can rant about Alan Wake. Like, uh,
Which now that I've gotten to chapter 3 of that game, I have a lot to say. I'm just not going to say it here.
oh boy. Um, Thumbs up, thumbs down when it comes to what you got to say, or
mid.
Okay, I can accept
And
that.
which is like, which honestly is I think it's worse than saying it's bad, because like when things are bad, like they can be memorably bad. This is just like, you know, I played Silent Hill 2 and it did what this game is trying to do better. The end.
I mean, that sounds like Remedy Entertainment to me, frankly. But um, next topic, and this one I don't want to stick around too long on, but
Oh boy.
and it's unfortunate. This is the I tried to find a good image to use, and I really
Did you just end up using the one that I sent you?
no. I maybe should have, but then again, I just ended up using the one thumbnail, right? YouTube drama. Let's go. Yeah. So okay, I don't the biggest thing I want to say about this topic is for everyone to be careful when it comes to getting sucked into drama like this. Because the thing is, I'm going to be honest, I knew about the completionist. I knew who he was. I didn't care. Like, I'd heard of his YouTube channel. I knew he was part of the attempted G4 revival. I know he's one of the few to get out of that without looking like a complete a-hole. And I know he was one of the basic opinions and skill ups friends per second podcast, right? That's all I really knew about the guy. He was in that category of YouTubers I don't care about because there's nothing insightful when it comes to his opinions on games for me, which is a lot of YouTubers out there.
It depends on what kind of insight you're going for.
And I go for the like deep analytical insight kind of a thing usually, or it's just having a good conversation. Like it's like, why do I watch Red Letter Media? And it's a combination of both. They talk about movies, but for Red Letter Media, it's like these are guys that have made their own movies, crappy movies, but they've still made their own movies. So they have an idea of what goes into the process, and they just have a good, no pretense conversation. Like they are literally guys with no pretensions. They know what they like. They like different things. If any of them are the artsy fartsy type, it's Jay, that kind of a thing. Like it's just a good conversation. With a lot of YouTubers, it's like, okay, you're just some guy that wants to just spout your opinion, which, I mean, isn't that technically what I am too? But it's it's like, what are you offering on the table that other people do not? And I think a lot of it ends up being charisma for some people. And Jirard the Completionist has charisma, and he has
Disagree.
You disagree? Well, he's got something.
Yeah, I am actually an avid completionist watcher. Yeah, I've been subscribed to this dude's channel since like 2017. I'm not gonna say I'm a fan, because when you're a fan, then stuff like this would upset you. But if you notice, I've been making fun of it like the whole time. Like you can check your DMs right now. I just sent you another one.
If I do, I might screw up our little graphic here because we're using Discord.
Yeah, it might, but it's a good one. But so the like, and I'm honestly still subscribed to this channel because, you know, being a Megadeth fan, you learn to separate the art from the artist. So with this whole thing, what I liked about him was that, you know, he calls himself the completionist because his whole point is this game worthwhile to actually complete, to get
To 100%.
or beyond 100% on if you've been playing the Donkey Kong games. And I appreciated that because that's something that I normally don't do. I normally don't complete games. And who knows if he says that a game is worth completing. I know, I have some friends that are trophy hunters for PlayStation, and then somehow manage to use their platinum trophies to get half off an $800 PS5 bundle. I don't know how that. I don't know how they did that, but they did. um, and I feel that there is some value there because it's also not just we're just gonna slap an arbitrary number as like on a rating scale for this. But it's like, okay, well, you can complete it or you can finish it. You can play it, not even finish it. Maybe it's worth only playing for a little bit and then you put it down forever.
So his content,
I felt like
so his content not only fulfills a need for those that are similarly minded for being a completionist, for wanting to get 100% in the game, but at the same time, it's insightful into a different way of approaching a game. So there is
Right.
value in that too. It's an intellectual value that you might not be the personality that's interested in 100%ing game unless you really, 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 really like it. But
Yeah.
you're able to see the perspective of someone that does share that doesn't share, that kind of thing, that it's someone else's perspective that you're able to get and glean. And that's the thing. Like for
Yeah.
me, I don't want to sound like I'm also talking down about him, because again, it's like I never really watched his content. It's just it didn't interest me. But
Sure.
it's like
That's fine.
it's not like it's not like when I was watching King K, and after a while I just I do not like watching King K. Um so it's not like that. But to go back a little bit from what I was saying, though, is like, again, because it's like I didn't really care much. I mean, it's apathy. It's apathy. Like
Sure.
his presence on YouTube doesn't really make much of a difference. And it's not like I was offended whenever I did listen to Friends Per Second podcast, which I barely listen to anyway. Because again, it's like most of the time I listen to them, and it's like, you guys are just giving regular old opinions anyone has, right? And that's and as again, that sounds dismissive, but it's like for me, it's like I want something more insightful. I want the kind of thing I can really chew on. Which some episodes they do. But
Sure.
getting back on track, the thing is, all of this drama with the charity, I started thinking about the completionist a lot more than I ever had before. And I also started to notice, because it was with his response that I started to see just how binary everybody was. Either he was the biggest crook that deserved to go to jail, or Mudahar and Carl Jobst, who were the first to bring the situation to light, or they were like completely horrible content mill. And it's like maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle, which, again, let's summarize the internet, right? Everyone's like binary extremes when the reality is somewhere more closer to the middle. And I guess that's just my thing. It's like I want to kind of just give people a warning, because for me, like, there are things about Jirard's response and just his response to the whole situation that to me stink.
Oh, absolutely.
He was immediately defensive and didn't really do anything to help, like, to offer help to them. He was just immediately on the defensive and has now been very accusatory. And granted, again, they've pressed it in a way that might have been inadvisable, but
Yeah.
it's like, for someone that's been put in a spotlight, it's like there's a lack of a desire to objectively see why this looks so bad.
Yeah. And it's interesting because people what the unfortunate thing about the internet and and the internet users of today that is prevalent is that people are too ready to accept what somebody says and not really dig into it themselves. And I can be guilty of this too, but at least what I have done in this situation, because like I understand from the get go that I haven't watched Carl Jobst's videos on this. I've only watched Budahar just because he's what gets fed to me. I've been subscribed for a few years now. He's when I watched his videos on it, he gives his insight, but I'm also very well aware he is not a lawyer. He's not. His job isn't in legality. He doesn't work for the government. He's also Canadian. So what like that
I didn't even know about
not
that.
not that him being Canadian is the problem, but he is from Canada where laws are different.
Yeah,
They're different from the United States. But it is also a problem that he's Canadian. But no, it's not a problem. Even though their flag is a freaking leaf. But anyway. But but at the same time, you know, I do see that his responses are researched. He puts on screen what he sees, and then I see Jirard's response because we've all been waiting for it for about a month, and he's been very behind on it. And to quickly summarize, Jirard has said up front that, you know, because of the pressure he was receiving from both Mutahar and Carl, they were looking for recipients of the donation, and the money has been donated, which, you know, good. That's a very good thing. It is unfortunate that the money has lost value, but at least it finally went somewhere. The problem is,
how long would it have taken otherwise? But we can't know that.
Right. But also, like, the whole thing about people being quick to readily believe what they're being told, and they're, you know, it's like a big game of telephone. You're hearing words like embezzlement, and in, like, at least with Mutahar, I can't speak for Carl, there has been no mention of the word embezzlement. All right?
No, not from them. They have mentioned cases of fraud, but it's specifically in reference to when, I think the bigger thing is when they were referencing the golf tournament of his family, which completionist, Jirard actually explained that very simply, which it's how Californian of them that it's basically one big expensive virtue signal. Because it's not actually raising money. It's not raising money for charity. It's just making a lot of money
like funding,
to
probably
run itself. It's like the golf tournament costs a lot, so they're going to charge a lot to have it and spread awareness, which is what he said was the goal of it. Which to me, again, is like, okay, so
that's what Susan G. Komen does, right? It's like,
and also to put in, I will say though, like
allegedly,
there is still a lack of clarity though, because again, like we look at Extra Life. Extra Life has a very specific event, but they also work specifically with Children's Miracle Network hospitals. It is documented and obvious that the money raised goes to that hospital through Children's Miracle. So like you're working with multiple layers already. Children's Miracle Network and then Extra Life. These are already two entities that are exchanging hands. But then with Extra Life, they do have events that are unrelated to the actual charity fundraising, but they're not advertised as being about awareness or anything. Like basically at the end of every year, I think they have something in Disney World for, or at least in Florida, for just celebrating, right? Like, hey, you can, you know, buy your tickets, you can come, but it's for the people that are doing the streaming. Right, like come meet other people that participate in Extra Life every year, that sort of a thing. It's not advertised on a wider scale as something that you can go do fundraising. Now, granted, again, Jirard never advertised this golfing thing himself. And he himself has never been part of it. And I don't think they were ever trying to... And that's part of it. Is Jirard part of, and maybe this thumbnail is part of the example, right? Because Jirard's the familiar face, they slap his face right on there. Now for Indiecade, is it? Like that's valid. Indieland, where he's sitting there, even in 2023, you know, the money goes to, you know, organizations like this, and it's like, no, it doesn't.
Yep, he was like, these are our partners. Yeah, he was like, these are our partners. Like, these are funding partners, and it's like, whoa. But And this is like where things start getting lost, all right? Because when I went on X, formerly known as Twitter, um, and I went on Jirard's tweet with the same video that's on his YouTube channel. All right, I looked at the responses because I'm like, what are people saying about this? And I see a lot about, hey, talk about the golf thing, talk about the golf thing. And in my head, I'm like, he's not the only guy who like. It's also his dad who who runs the open hand. There's probably he's probably not involved in everything, so I wouldn't be
No,
surprised if Gerard doesn't have visibility on a lot of the stuff that
Indie
the
Land
that
is
open
his
hand is
thing.
involved in.
Indie Land is his
Exactly.
thing.
Right.
The golf thing is like, okay, this is making things more complicated, but and I
Hmm.
got another thing that honestly, because he talks about the receipts and everything's accounted for, but Mudahar made a good point, which is the expenses aren't actually like itemized, right?
Right.
Everything is not carefully kept track in a way that is visible. But again,
Yeah, they
like
had a
for
line item
me,
called assets. That was
that's
not good. That's not a good look.
that's what you do if you want to look suspicious, right? But the
Right.
thing is, again, like for in the long run, I think again with completionist with Gerard's response, I think the thing that really sets me off though, like I can understand frustration regarding yes, you started this charity for your deceased mother who had this condition. Wielding her twice in one video like a cudgel of guilt brings
Yeah.
me like that's not something people do unless they're trying to be manipulative by playing the victim. Now,
I'm
I don't want to toss accusations around. Like I'm not going to call Gerard a narcissist,
right.
right? I'm not going to call him anything. I don't have enough. I don't have enough. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychoanalyst. Like I can't sit here and tell you, well, judging by this, this, and this, these tells, Gerard is expressing these. I'm not going to be able to do
You just,
that.
you
But
just
it's
draw a
like
circle over his eye and the little thumbnail. It's like,
there's little
did you see
creases in
it?
his face, little creases in his face. Um, but the thing is, it's like that is a defensive tactic meant to automatically manipulate reaction. And it might be subconscious. It probably is subconscious, in fact. Like, I have
Could
no
be.
doubt that he's frustrated because people are calling him a fraudster. And I do not doubt that for him, it really does mean something to try and donate money to these causes because it did matter to him. Right?
Yeah.
I do not doubt that it hurt when his mom went through these things and passed away. Um, but bro, something stank. All right.
Yeah.
So stop hiding behind that as your defense. And that's where, for me, it's like that's the thing that I came away from that I was like, him threatening legal action after it's like, dude, from the very first one. Now, and here's another thing. We don't have the full recording of Mudahar and Carl's conversation with him on that, like before the videos came out. We
Yeah.
only
Yeah. We
have
don't.
we only have portions of their recording. Thing is, Gerard's never challenged those recordings, so there is possibility that those are cherry picked. That maybe Mudahar and Carl were probing and probing and probing until he got frustrated, and then they took just the clips where they sound reasonable, and then Gerard's reacting emotionally. But Gerard's never presented any kind of argument regarding that evidence.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like the most likely result is that Gerard was caught with his pants down, and immediately, like the first accusation made was, "You guys are going to do what you want for the content mill." And honestly, Carl and Mudahar are YouTubers. Subconsciously, they probably are driven by the algorithm. They're thinking of how to post this content, what to discuss, is probably driven in part to what am I going to have up today, and they got to
Oh,
have something up
obviously. I
there.
mean, they're well, again, can't speak for Carl, but Mutahar is part of the commentary community, where he puts up like a 15-20 minute upload per day, and things have been noteworthy enough as of late that it's probably been easy pickings for him.
Oh yeah.
There's a bunch of other things that we could have talked about today, honestly, that developed within the past 24 hours even.
But these are the ones that I cared about.
But this one really does kind of show what issues with the internet. All right, and I'm sitting here because I want at this point I'm glad that the money got donated. I'm probably a person who Twitter would consider a weirdo because I don't think Jirard is beyond redemption here. But I mean, I tweeted, I responded to his tweet thread and I said, all of this could have been avoided if you were just transparent in the first place. Literally all of it could have been avoided so easily. And it was just gross negligence.
Now I just had it in my brain because there was one thing I wanted to give to Jirard. Oh, one of the things that I said that he and his family were probably going to need to do was step down from open hand. That is exactly what they're doing. They are basically changing hands. Like they're getting new people to be in charge of open hand. That was maybe, and this is where it's also like, is that the right thing to do? Right? Like, do they deserve that?
I would say it is.
Are they? Well, okay. It's like one of those subjective things. Like, what is the right thing to do? Like, is there an objectively good move? And I think there's a most rational move, but it's a rational move because it's factoring in the irrationality of people. Trust in Jirard has been broken, and his family. Trust in Jirard and his family has been broken. So the right thing to do is for them to step down and hand the keys over to someone else. Not to end the Open Hand Foundation, but to hand the keys over to someone else. That I will give credit was the best thing to do. Dude's clearly taking it personally still. And
oh yeah,
that's
and I can kind of understand why,
Yes,
but it's like because it's like I get it, but
and
the unfortunate thing is, I don't think he was ready for this kind of for what this thing entailed. I think he needed to talk to experts and get actual, like pay people to do the work and do it right. Because it is, I think, a big thing that I don't want to spend too much more time on this because we got other cool and fun things to talk about. But the last thing I want to mention here is like he apparently knew about the money not moving since 2021.
Well, 2022.
If that were me,
I forget which year. It was either 2020. It might have been 2022 because you misspoke.
I mean, either way, still a couple
long
years
enough.
ago.
Long enough.
Yeah, long enough for me to be like, okay, who the hell's ass do I need to beat right now? Because if I was in his shoes, like I did this, like I opened this for my mother, and you're doing what? I would be absolutely livid and want to cut somebody's head off. So I don't know. Maybe because I hear about Jirard being a nice guy, maybe he's too nice of a guy. Maybe, and this is just him and his niceness getting in the way of things. And now it's time for him to get angry. But bro, it's too little, too late. It's
also who are you getting angry at? The thing
exactly.
Is, a lot of people. I mean, let's face it. A lot of people have throughout history seem nice, and a lot of times you interact with them, but it's like, are they actually though? And it's just they haven't been truly tested, or they haven't. Or they're only nice to the right people, or it's like you go to an event and it's like, oh, they're so nice, they interact so kindly, and then it's like, yeah, but they beat their wife, which I'm not saying he does. I'm not saying he does. I'm not throwing that accusation out.
Whoa! I thought you would make a joke about how I'm literally texting my friend about this right now. I thought you were gonna make a joke about how it's like, yeah, he's so nice, but he started a fight with Jack Perry backstage.
Well, no, because anyone could tell CM Punk's really a jerk. I haven't even been following
Excuse
wrestling
me while I do
long.
victory laps around my bar.
All right. But
Anyway,
we do need to move on to
yeah.
in fact, perfect
it's an
imagery.
upsetting story, man.
Perfect
But you know,
imagery.
don't be a super fan. No, how fitting.
You see AV Hobbies. It's just Crapman Boss is such a nice guy, super cool Christian man that effing snaps at the slightest inconvenience and the oddest smiley way. Why are you talking about me, man? Like, no, I do end up having pride and anger issues, but I like to try and hope I'm open about them. But no, so the video game awards, the fallout has been interesting. Like you and I got done watching, and and it's almost like we were numb to some of it. No, granted, we didn't know about stuff like the "Please wrap it up" sign.
I'm gonna go even further and be like, out of everyone that I've seen online, we were nice to them. We were nice to the Game Awards.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you and I, like, our expectations are like so low that we were like, yeah, man, that was pretty good. At the same time, or maybe again, some of it's like I'm numb to, or some of it is also, it just goes at such a clip, right? Like,
Yeah.
I remember in the I don't think I said anything on stream, but I remember in the moment, and we were also talking about stuff, so we were all often distracted ourselves. So I just remember in the moment, like briefly thinking, man, Anthony Mackie's been going for a really long time, and never connecting the dots to how much stage time he had. And then like how quickly the music plays these developers out. Right. The connection was never made, but that is the big and again, talking about every once in a while, we'll listen to friends per second. Once in a while, I will get their perspective. And one of the things they pointed out was last year, there was a lot of backlash for people just taking too long on stage.
Mainly Christopher Judge.
And everyone laughed at that joke. Everyone laughed when they started playing the music. Yeah, it was funny.
Yeah, that was clearly that was set up, but that was well done. And then he did that quip, bashing Modern Warfare 3, like, woo!
Yeah, which, a bunch of the devs tried to be like, yeah, but engagement numbers. And it's like, yeah, but 30% drop in sales in the UK alone. Like, yeah, man, that's a whole other topic.
It's cope.
It is cope. Developer cope, unfortunately, but no, the thing is, and you also have how much time was dedicated to that Muppet skit. And the thing is, again, like that is stuff that's going to make Jeff Keighley especially look bad, because it looks like he literally is putting on this show and inviting the Muppets so he could be part of a Muppet skit, because any other way he would never be part of a Muppet skit. He would never be in a Muppet movie. He would never be on a Muppet TV show, because the rest of the world just does not give enough of a crap about the game industry or the game awards.
He'll never be in Apex Legends, so he has like a 5-minute back and forth with Mirage, which was awful.
So
he could be in Fortnite though, and that would be really funny.
That would be really hilarious.
Funny. There's something about real people. I thought it was funny to have real people as like Funko Pops, which is why I have like Kevin Owens back there, because it's just funny looking. Like a Jeff Keighley Funko Pop would be funny, but also like having real, just an actual person as themselves in Fortnite is just really funny.
I do want to give some, because here's the thing, again, just like with Jirard, it's like I don't want to make a villain out of Jeff Keighley, because one of the things that he has done is he has listened to some feedback. He still has musical stuff going on stage, but if you notice this year, it's all relevant to the video games. Like every song performance, which is better, had to do with the video game. Like the one band was for Hellblade.
Yep. which was dope, honestly.
Like, love or hate it, the Alan Wake song was at least from the game Alan Wake. You know,
Great.
there was another the Final Fantasy VII music, the Final Fantasy VII song.
That was kind of cool
That's
that they were playing music from the game. Like that was like playing along to the trailer was the reveal. That's
yeah.
kind of neat.
And so that's where it's like, okay, this is what you do with music performances. I think that's what people want the celebrity performances to be in general, like not actual Hollywood celebrities. Like Christopher Judge deserves to be there because he's Kratos now. He's part of the
Yeah.
games industry. You know, we have enough people in the games industry that could give away those awards. Somebody even put, again, I think it was Friends Per Second, the winner of last year's Game of the Year award giving away next year's Game of the Year award, right?
That was cool.
No, that could be cool. That's not what happened. It was Timothy Chalamet.
Wait, yeah, it didn't happen this year. You're right.
Because they never did that. They've never done
What the
that.
heck?
It would make sense, though. It would actually make
No,
sense.
they did it. I think they did it with Elden Ring. I think Neil Druckmann introduced, like he gave the award. Well,
He might have. Yes, that's true. Now, granted, it might just be because, you know, it's Hidetaka Miyazaki and he's like too busy working on the DLC. And also he was very confused by Bill Clinton boy. You could, if you look back at that video, you could see his poor confusion. He is like completely confounded of what, like, who is this person? What are they doing? What is going on? Like, he was confused. It's like, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Miyazaki, welcome to America.
everybody was.
But I mean, at the same time, like, again, for you and me, some of the reaction for me is like not surprised because it is a commercial show. Like it
It is.
always has been. And as I said years ago, you know, when asked about why the focus on trailers and not as much on awards, Jeff Keighley basically said it's because gamers are more forward looking. They don't look behind very often. And it's like, well, that's awfully cynical of you. But I think,
Yeah,
again,
that is definitely not true.
I think also it's about who Jeff Keighley is. Like what we were saying, right? It's there's not much representation of Gen Z stuff going on. You don't see,
Especially this year.
there's not,
Especially this year.
like the closest you have is something like Fortnite, but you don't see Five Nights at Freddy's represented. You don't see gosh, what the heck else is my niece playing, for example, right?
I mean, they had like MiHoYo had a big presence though.
They had
So
a
there's
big
that.
presence, but do they have a big presence on stage or do they have a big marketing presence?
No, they got a big marketing presence.
That's the
There were
difference.
no awards to them except for like
They had some
Genshin
nominations.
Impact was nominated.
It was nominated, but it was nominated for like best ongoing. I don't even know if it was nominated for best community support. But
Oh, definitely
there's-
They don't listen.
I hope you guys don't hear the rest of the sound from throughout my house. Oh,
I don't hear a squat.
I muted my mic, so go ahead, give some thoughts for the time being. As disaster goes on.
Great. So the biggest thing that really was like upsetting here was learning, like with the picture that you see down below, that there are after about 30 seconds, a sign would show up saying, "Please wrap it up," indicating to whoever's on stage accepting their award that they need to stop talking and get off the stage. And there were some moments that were probably, well, not even probably, just extremely inappropriate for that to show up. Like, you know, when the when I guess he was the lead programmer or producer. I forgot what his name. The guy in the armored suit accepting the Game of the Year for Baldur's Gate 3.
Like the lead
Right.
at Larian Studios, and he was talking about the guy that passed away.
There are apparently multiple people that passed away, and they had this sign up, and they started playing music. Like guys, come on! Like it's just really inappropriate to have this really bad imbalance between you know, the marketing and who we're supposed to be celebrating. And that's where this is really losing its way. And I can tell that Jeff Keighley does listen to the criticism. So I'm very curious as to what's going to happen next year. Well, like what's going to happen at Summer Games Fest, even because it's just really.
I've got that
no, go
prep
ahead.
because I was going to say I've got that prep too because E3 is officially dead, which means Summer Games Fest is the game in town now. And
It is, yeah, because E3's dead, guys. Not sure if you heard. It's gone.
To me, that's a downgrade. To me, that's a downgrade, and there's a number of reasons why, though. But
it really is unfortunate because I do miss, and maybe we should like give a eulogy to E3 at some point. Just talk about some of our memories. It being them being good or bad. But like, this is like now. Jeff Keighley has ended up being the guy in town for upcoming games stuff, and that's like now we have Summer Games Fest, and now what the Game Awards is, which is essentially Winter Games Fest with some awards,
which honestly, I'd rather they just rebrand that. Like I know people would probably disagree with me, but it's like, look, let's be honest. Let's just get rid of the awards because they don't matter to them. Right?
Yeah, clearly.
They're the gimmick to have the marketing event around. And again, it's like, how seriously does Keighley himself? I mean, let's face it, right? This is a guy that the first bad sign was when people asked about the indie category. And he basically, gave a non-answer about, like what is indie even.
Ugh.
And then he said, the nominations are determined by the jury, so it's like it's not me. Basically, he's like blaming on the jury. The same jury that voted for Sifu to be nominated for best fighting game last year. So it's not like this is anything
That
new.
was insane. I forgot about that. I keep forgetting about that.
It's not like this is anything new, right? Like, if anything, this just proves that the games press do anything but the research they need to understand the medium they're reporting on, which in a lot of ways is honestly no surprise. Let's remember that Rock Band preview. It's like it's an easy one to go to, but it's not exclusive. And like one of the things that I gotta find, allegedly Adam Sessler even admitted he doesn't even care about video games. X-Play was just a job. And
shocker.
Yeah, it's like, for a lot of people, it was supposed to be a stepping stone to getting real journalist jobs. Only guess what? It turns out you're not good enough for that, firstly. And secondly, that's dying too, it turns out. So, but that's the thing. Like, these things are a lot of like allegedlys. The one that's like the most obvious because the guy practically said it was the Rock Band preview. Where the whole thing, and it's like he's trying to be artistic, right? Like, instead of writing an op-ed, which is what it should have been, like, you can write an op-ed that's like, what is the point of a preview of a game like Rock Band? But if you're doing a Rock Band preview, then you do a Rock Band preview. That's your job. Anyways, this is old bad blood, but that's the thing.
I do love that article. That article is horrifically bad.
So pretentious.
Because really it was.
But
so, like, I don't even like Rock Band. Anyway, here's why I'm going through a midlife crisis. I'm like, is this the Mandela effect? Because I don't remember asking, bro. It's ridiculous.
But no, with that, but that's the thing. Like, because Jeff Keighley was himself a traditional games press journalist, he has those ties with those people, and that is some bad wording. He has those connections, though, and that's where, for him, that's who the jury should be. Now, none of these award shows are ever going to be free of their politics, but like, you want the real awards, go to the Game Developers Choice Awards. The problem is, nobody watches those. Why? Well, a few reasons. One of which is, how many people know about the Game Developers Choice Awards? Not a lot, because there aren't a lot of people paying attention to GDC. Why? Because the GDC is an industry event. It's not a commercial event. even though
Yeah,
there are
it's not a commercial event. There's press are allowed, but
press
it's not
do
like
go there,
a
yes.
press event. You know,
But it's surprise, surprise, game developers choosing who wins what awards. Kind of like what
I
the
would argue that
Oscars
that
actually
holds a lot more
does.
weight.
Exactly. Um, but that's part of like what is again. It's like why I'm numb to the Game Awards, right? Because we talked about it when we went over the nominations and we discussed some stuff. But it's like at this point, there's not much to be surprised about on our part. I've been following. I mean, I've been watching these Game Awards since they were on Spike TV. Since Spike
Dude,
TV was running them.
I remember that. I think the first annual was like what 2003.
It was some time ago. It was a while.
And it was like it was interesting, you know, because
I don't think it was that
this is
early. I
when
think it was later than that, but I don't remember exactly when.
I remember being in like ninth grade and watching it, which was 2003.
Mm.
And I remember being like, "Oh, sweet, maybe." I don't know what I really don't know what the hell I was expecting, like because but that's when I realized that my taste in games, all right, because I played a lot on the Game Boy Advance and I had a GameCube. I didn't have a PlayStation 2. I didn't have an Xbox, so I didn't care for Halo, all right? So things around that would win. Things adjacent to that would win. GTA Vice City, I think, just came out. So obviously that was getting all the attention. And I was like, it's whatever. I'm not into that. I'm gonna keep playing Phantasy Star Online episodes 1 and 2. I'm gonna keep playing like Animal Crossing's coming out. I'm gonna be playing that. I'm playing Mega Man Zero 2 on my Game Boy Advance. And that didn't win, and that was like that was probably my favorite game that year. So it's like that's when I learned that my taste is not like it's not like everybody else's. And then like I grew up more, and I was like, okay, well that's just fine, I guess.
See, I had that
So
I had that contrarian element. Only mine was more. You guys should listen to me. I'm smarter than you. So I did. I wasn't as chill like I should have been. We got some comments from Mr. AV Hobbies here, and I think I wanted to address some of them. I don't know. I think award shows do need to happen. It helps people continue their projects, feel love, validation, inspiration. It all just got effed. It's not like the Grammys, which are you sure that's not a typo? Or a music chart that's just saying this is popular since it's just about numbers rather than effort and appreciation. Seeing Hi-Fi Rush on the awards was surprising to me. Playing
that was
Final Fantasy
great
X
though.
for the eighth time. Better than Final Fantasy VIII for the 10th time.
Ooh.
But
Oh, you're right.
see, I do wonder, do we need award shows? Because award shows, again, they end up being political. They end up being clicky and clubby. To me,
Yeah.
I've come, and this is how I feel about like when it comes to the idea of like a press, right? Like if you want a gaming website, like get to your niche, find your niche. Like stop trying something that's broad appeal. Get to your niche, right? Like I'm having a lot of fun putting together, and I'm almost done the first part, my, year in review videos where I just get to discuss low level discussion of games that I played through 2023. And I guarantee you, any discussion I put out there will be more valuable to people that happen to share somewhat of a similar philosophy to me in games. Like, whether they have my same taste or not, it's like they'll probably get more value of me talking about what games that I do than just seeing what gets the most awards in the award show. And also, by putting out a video like that, people get to see what my tastes are, what I'm playing, right? And that's where, again, you find the creators that, and again, with the way YouTube is, it's easy to find like enough people out there, and every game will be discussed by somebody. I mean, that's the funny thing, right? Some of the biggest news stories from this year about all the garbage from Creative Assembly going on and the cancellation of Hyenas came from Voland. Who's Voland? he's just a Total War stream content creator with some Dishonored content as well. But it's like he's a Total War content creator. That's a niche. And you know what? He had a lot of Total War fans following him, including employees of Creative Assembly, current and former, which is how members of that development team reached out to him to talk about what was going on in Creative Assembly and Hyenas and why all of these games are the way they are. And all of a sudden, you've got all these games press that are watching, basically taking from his videos and making headlines. Right. And a whole lot's basically come out. Like there are more people now talking about how Creative Assembly has evidently been real dishonest with their creators program, where if you are not a shill, then you are blacklisted. Which is effectively what happened to him, because he was willing to criticize their games. He was blacklisted real quick. But you know who cared? The people making the game and the people that have been playing the Total War games for years. Since the very first, what was the first one? Total War Shogun? I believe Total War Shogun came before Total War Rome. Yes.
Dude,
it was Shogun Total War. That's why. It was Shogun Total War and then Rome Total War. Because my brother played these games. My brother was always a strategy game fan. He's how I know about strategy games. And
Gotcha.
But that's the thing. Volan's not a big YouTuber. He's got his niche. And yet, in today's internet, that mattered, right? Because the regular games press don't care. The regular games press are chasing bigger studios. Again, Figurative Ambulance Chaser Jason Schreier is going after Naughty Dog because that's a big high profile studio. Creative Assembly is nowhere near as high profile. Why is he going to be contacting those employees? Right? He only wants to contact the big ones that are going to get him noticed, to put him in a negative light.
So, I think this topic of whether or not we need award shows.
You think it's a valid one?
Too Many Games panel?
I was thinking something along those lines. Yeah. I might have to start writing some stuff down. Because I want to pitch more Too Many Games panels. Yeah. Do we need award shows?
I think there's a good discussion to have here, because what the value of opinions of your fellow gamers versus events like award shows, because that goes beyond just video games as well. What makes Grammy so important? What makes the Billboard Top 100 so important? That's not an award show, but that there's prestige behind it. What is the value of prestige?
Hold on. The video might go screwy for a quick second. I'm trying to prepare. It looks like it is, and it's not. It's not. Okay.
Okay, we're good now. We went gray for a moment.
It went screwy for a little bit. Yes. All right. Let me know, because again, I only have 2 monitors here. It looks like we're still good.
I also have opinions on winning artists such as R. Kelly.
So, oh gosh. No. So before
I'm not saying anything.
We will switch topics real quickly, but before that, honestly, I think Penny Arcade is more miss than hit these days. I think they've lost some connection to who they once were. But this comic, I think
it's inevitable as you get older.
This comic was a rare bit of that classic hard-hitting humor.
Hold on, I'm gonna...
Oh, you're gonna try and full screen it yourself?
Yeah, I'm reading it. We're all here, Mom. Don't be scared. I've got the kids too. They wanted to say goodbye to the rest of the best nana in the world. I hear music, son. I hear music. It's the angels, Mom. They're coming to take you home. Actually, wait. I hear it too. Please wrap it up. Dude, that's... Oh, man. That is...
I don't think Penny Arcade has the sway they used to. But... that's a hard-hitting one, man.
Dude, I mean, it really is. It really does go to show you how inappropriate this really was. Like,
This is what I wanted to look at though. Like some of the
ah,
developers. Now some of these opinions are just like younger games press that are like, oh, E3 2010 was the first one I went to. It's like, shut up, you little baby boy. You don't count.
shut up, you child.
Because
The
I've
Nintendo
watched,
DS is older than you. Your opinion doesn't matter.
like for me, some of it is like even going back and watching videos of like old when it was still consumer, like part of Consumer Electronics Show, when E3
Yep.
you hadn't even started yet.
CES.
But yeah, Kojima had a
Times.
big one. The end of E3 is sad news. I especially cherish the presentation of MGS2 in 2000, or 23 years, I'll never forget. Without E3, Japanese creators and titles would not have made it to the global stage to this extent. E3 brought together creators and industry figures from all over the world, transcending borders and races. And he's got a point.
Yeah.
Because, pardon me, because from the 90s and into the early 2000s, E3 was really big. It wasn't until like the Xbox 360 era though, where again, like, because earlier this year was that whole JRPG discussion and debate, right? And
Yeah.
that's about when there ended up being, and that should have been the first sign. Now that I think about it, the games press was going to be sour in the next 10 years, because you had all this, man, all these anime JRPG games are so weird, they're so backwards, they're just not good. And you had like one of the most awkward eras of Japanese games in a long time. And it was a big shame. And even I
Yeah.
had bad optics at the time, but Metal Gear Solid was able to make it because, as let's face it, like people don't realize just how Japanese that game is. It was
That
appealing
game
to the
is
West at the
very
time.
Japanese.
Oh yeah, but it appealed to the West at the time, in a lot of ways because it could. Um,
Dude, hearing Triple H talk about his experience with Metal Gear Solid is funny. Like, it just kind of goes to show you the reach Metal Gear Solid had.
yeah,
Is just that there were people that you would never expect to play video games playing Metal Gear Solid, which I don't think was a very accessible game for the common player, for the casual player. Like, I
it
really don't.
it fit into the marketing though of the time. Actually, if anything,
It did.
it fit into the marketing that Sony was pushing better than Final Fantasy VII did. Because like Final Fantasy VII sold
Yeah.
a lot, but like my cousin's a perfect example, right? And I knew a bunch of kids when I was at school that they saw the ad that was all pre-rendered cutscene, bought the game, and then some of them didn't even make it out of Midgar before quitting because it
Uh,
wasn't anything like they expected, because they sold this as a big cinematic experience and they got this turn-based RPG. Now, Metal Gear
yeah, I remember
Solid,
hearing a story. Yeah, Metal Gear Solid was the flip of that. That was like it delivered on the cinematics from the marketing.
yeah. No, go what you're gonna say. Story.
So a Newgrounds guy
Mm.
called Oni Plays, a great Let's Play channel, by the way. Definitely check him out. Um, uh, Oni was talking about how his dad was actually the one who bought Final Fantasy VII for the PlayStation. And he started playing it, and he hated it because of the graphics and also the amount of reading that needed to be done. But then Oni got absolutely obsessed with it. So, and then that led him to being one of the biggest Final Fantasy heads on Newgrounds. It's a funny little story, especially considering
Oh
that
yeah.
my dad is actually a huge Final Fantasy fan, believe it or not. He like I had Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9 from him. And then I lent them to a cousin. They're long gone now, but like it's kind of interesting how many people Final Fantasy captivated. But Metal Gear Solid just again definitely had the marketing to go with it.
Metal Gear Solid had not just the marketing, but it had that
The,
cinematic
the
gameplay.
presentation,
The
I should say.
presentation, yes. Because it's what people, again, it's like Sony continued what Sega had started. It was like, we're going after a more mature audience. Video games no longer toys. We're going after an audience that doesn't want to be talked down to. And Metal Gear Solid was able to deliver that in a way that felt like, man, this is just like all those awesome movies, like an R-rated movie. It feels like I'm playing a movie, man.
Yeah.
Metal Gear Solid delivers that perfectly, and it has functional gameplay. Like people are able to play it, enjoy it. Like, yeah. Now Cory Barlog,
That's a name I haven't heard in a bit.
well, that's the thing, because remember he was part of the God of War like original PS2 development team. Was
Yeah.
on the show floor showing the demo of the very first God of War so many years ago, and got to see how excited people were to play this new weird game starring the angry guy with chains. Truly changed my whole outlook. Both loved and hated this show. Rips to the E3. Now, who else? Here we go. While consumers won't see a difference, the loss of E3 is massive for those working in the industry. Something of real tangible value has been replaced by something far more commercial and cynical. We all know what helped kill E3, and as an industry, we should all be upset. Now,
Ooh.
this tweet and Cory Barlog's and even Hideo Kojima, like, because I think because a lot of people, what a lot of people bring up is, you know, publishers have learned that they can just stream this stuff directly to the consumer. You got the Nintendo Direct, Microsoft has their presentations, Sony's got their state of play. Everyone's got an event now, if anything. Then you have the Summer
Yeah.
Games Fest, and again, when you compare what it was like for me watching E3 when I was younger, heck, even before you could watch it, before you could stream it, it was basically just what videos can I download. Back when you were still, it's like when you had to have,
I remember.
when you had to have QuickTime, you had to have Real Movie Player. You needed to make sure you had
Yeah,
all the
real
necessary-
player, baby.
You needed all the codecs to make sure you could play something, because if you were interested in a game, you had to download 15-second clips because they couldn't host larger, and they were all like not even 360p in resolution. Like these,
Oh no, it was like 144p at best.
Yeah,
you
like
would just see the blockiest of visuals. It was bad.
I was in high school downloading clips of the Area 51 Xbox game because I was hyped for that.
Shame
Shame
I played
on
the
me.
PS2 version. Yeah, I played the PS2 version of that game, and that was one of the games ever released.
I would agree.
That was
oh man,
dude, I loved pressing the sticks and just seeing your hands just flail about as your melee moves. It was fun.
The alien made some kind of like a sound too. It was crazy. But that's the thing. Like,
It was so bad.
it's like that's what E3 started as for me with the internet. But it's funny because, especially as an adult, I miss the presentations where they actually go over the business details. Even though you can smell the bull crap they're spitting out,
Yeah.
it was still, it's like getting that idea of, okay, where is this company's priorities? What message are they trying to communicate? What is the direction they're taking? It was fascinating to look at. And now it's just trailer, another trailer, have a third trailer, yet one more trailer. And this is where Summer Games Fest, I realized, again, sensory overload. You mentioned it yourself. Summer Games Fest is sensory overload, especially when you consider how many events they have. And another thing that I think most people have learned after COVID, but some folks still haven't, is people crave physical interaction.
No, we do.
People do not want to just sit in their house, sit at their computer, looking at stuff. Like, if the future ever allows it, you and me are going to be in a studio doing this. Not
That would be cool as hell.
like, that's like one of those life goals if I get enough money kind of a thing. Like, that's, I want to find a place I can live where I can have either a furnished basement or a spare room that could be a studio for this kind of thing. But that's, wishful thinking.
Pie
at
in the
moment.
sky. That's like that's.
But
like,
that's because like physical is just better.
It is.
And so
I mean, we could do extra life online,
it would not be the
but
same.
exactly it would definitely not be the same.
And that's where something like E3 dying, we need more physical events. And that's where it's like if the publishers were able to better manage, I guess you could say, convention subdivisions or something. So like the big publishers are able to have like, here are the demos and kiosks that we take from place to place, so that you can have more than just PAX East will have some AAA games and a whole swath of indie games, right?
Yeah.
Have conventions or some kind of event across America that they treat it like, these companies treat it as tours, kind of a thing. It's like, we're going to hit this convention, we're going to take our booth to this convention, our booth to this convention, because it's good for the community. It's good for just people that are playing games, right? I mean, I still remember going to PAX East one year and just randomly getting into a conversation with guys because they were talking about something with Halo, and it's like, hey, sorry to cut in, but here's my 2 cents. And next thing you know, I'm just talking with these guys.
Yeah.
This shared experience kind of a thing. And Too Many Games is a nice location, but it's not the same because
It's not like a
it's mostly a marketplace. Firstly,
yeah, it's a trade show more than anything, especially this past year, considering that they moved like the music stage, you know. Um,
but
it's
there's also other elements to it as well. But it's like there was something crucially different about the more social nature, and maybe part of it is just waiting in lines, right? Like I didn't wait in lines that often at Stinking Too Many Games, but regardless, that's the thing. Like E3 was something I always wanted to go to, and now I completely missed my chance. Now, granted, it saved me from having to go to LA.
yeah, that area in particular is not, and not just LA, but specifically that part of LA just sounds like hell to just try and navigate,
Oh
you
yeah.
know. And but I E3 was something I've always wanted to go to as well. My like my first experience with E3, because I didn't have good internet until 2006. So, of course, my first experience with E3 was the infamous 2006 E3 with the PS3 reveal.
I don't believe I don't have that date just burned into my brain, because that was the birth of the whole Wii 60 everything.
Oh, that still blows my mind to this day that I ran into Wii60.com on YouTube, and then you just name drop it, and I'm like, what?
Because I used to write for the front page of that website, which
Which
does
is
not exist
nuts.
anymore. Well, I mean,
Absolutely insane, because
that
I
video
saw
got
the video
around.
marketing.
That video got
It,
around, though. I mean, that
it's
video
still
started the
crazy.
whole thing. And again, like that's a discussion for a day, because that whole website was so weird that like basically a community sprouted from the attempts of two opportunistic like shucksters. Like maybe shuckster's not the word, but it's like like the two guys that ran it really were scammers, but
Oh,
they
that sucks.
the thing is the community was legit. Because like, dude, you would go there and there are dudes just writing paragraphs of detailed discussions regarding the different consoles and why the PS3 was a hardware like disaster for development. I loved it. I loved it. You don't have stuff like that anymore, but it had a
No.
lot of issues too.
But that was also, dude. That I do miss 2006 internet sometimes. Like it was a very different time. I don't want to go back to 2006, but 2006 internet was wild.
It was still a frontier. Now it is just part of the cyber. It's like the cyberpunk dystopia that in the midst of the Wild West frontier, because the internet's still the internet. But now there's a whole bunch of corporate involvement like there never was before, and it's awful,
Yeah,
and other things, and everyone's yelling at each other.
dude. I think it'd be worthwhile for us to do like a post, no, not post mortem, what, a eulogy for E3, because I always did look forward to the conferences because they were ridiculous. Like there are just so many fun moments, and that, like, this is like Reggie Fils-Aimé becoming this character. You know,
That's the thing. Nintendo always did it the best. Once the era of Satoru Iwata, Reggie Fils-Aimé, and Shigeru Miyamoto, that trio, dude, every year they won. It didn't
it was so fun.
matter. And they always had different ideas. Like they had the one year they were puppets. They had the one
Yep.
year that
Robot Chicken year.
they were the robot chicken. Yeah. Was that when they started to move to Nintendo Direct though? Because that's the thing, like everyone.
No, I think it was like the year before.
Because everyone brings up, that's the thing, like everyone will bring up like the Wii music performance and how that was a disaster. And I think people
It was
only
really
remember
bad.
people only remember the disasters, but it's like there's also something about getting caught in that hype that again, Summer Games Fest does not have.
Yeah.
Because and that's the thing too, like when I went back to post a bunch of the trailers that was at the Game Awards onto the Discord, half the stuff I'd already forgotten was announced. That's part of the issue again with the format that they've chosen with these things is, and part of it is, in hindsight, right? Because I was one of those that's like, talk less, we want more of the games, and it turns out I also wanted less of a show because it's like I didn't want more games, I just wanted less talking or filler, and now it's. And that's where now with the game awards, that's what it needs to be, is like more awards, fewer ads, fewer trailers, fewer announcements. I don't mind having announcements, you can have them, but have fewer of them. And that's because that's the thing, like the reveal of like Monster Hunter, like we knew there was going to be a new Monster Hunter game. Monster Hunter Wilds, like the trailer was just so good because it gives you so much to speculate.
I marked out. Like I marked out so hard. I was happy. Like I'm excited because that just conceptually that looks like so much fun.
Yep.
There's
like a great world to play multiplayer in already.
But it also like it was almost sinister with how good that little reveal was, because it's like, oh, you can just go ahead and forget that there were things about the show that were just not kosher. It's like, who cares about all this other crap? Monster Hunter happened.
This is true. Which is, well, it's kind of like the 1 year, like people are like, oh yeah, man, Summer Games Fest was great in 2022, 2021.
Was it?
2021. People were like, man, Summer Games Fest was great.
Happened in 2021.
Here's the thing though. People were like, Summer Games Fest was great in 2021. No, it wasn't. It's just, you got your first Elden Ring gameplay trailer.
Oh yeah, that did happen.
And when that dropped, everyone flipped their lid. And I know me, like every once in a while, it doesn't happen often, but every once in a while, I will have like a game trailer that I'll watch and rewatch. And it's like just the hype. And From Software knows how to do it. From Software knows how to put together a trailer for hype. Heck, Japan knows how to put together trailers these days.
They do.
American marketing teams suck. And I say this as someone who's for a marketing firm. Oh no. I'm gonna get fired. No, I mean, because it's like, oh god. But It's just oh,
Oh, wait,
but
hold on.
uh-oh,
Is
hold
your
on, hold
stream
on.
down?
Uh-oh, is it?
No. Okay. It just started loading for me for some reason.
Stream health. Let's see. It just says stream health is excellent, so I don't know.
Okay.
Um,
All right, we're good. We're good.
we're
It
good.
was just on my end. Ow, what the hell?
Oh, okay.
This thing keeps pulling on my hair. Well, all right. So, what is your favorite E3 moment? Like, be it good or bad. Actually, no, but better yet, a good one and then a bad one. And by bad, I mean like hilarious.
Some of the problem with
Like
this is
funny
you're
bad.
going to end up having some recency bias. Um,
Okay.
I'll give you a couple of good ones. One's going to be recency bias. One's not. Did it just switch over to Penny Arcade? Oh crap! My version of the stream is way back. I have this thing on like no latency, and it's still this weird preview thing. Oh my goodness. Weirdness. Sorry. So old good memory. Even though it turned out to be smoke and mirrors, the first gameplay reveal of Halo 2. Well, I say smoke and mirrors, but it was more like they slapped that demo together and realized they had to start the game over from scratch. So what
Oh, that
but
reveal. Okay.
the thing is that gameplay reveal was so incredibly hyped to me. And yeah, some of that stuff never came to fruition. Like I still remember seeing the jackals get into formation and march forward and be like, "Yo, that's awesome!" And then they don't ever exhibit behavior like that in the game ever.
Yeah,
Which
they don't, huh?
well, it kind of makes sense because it's like, "Oh, look, grenade! Guess what? I just killed them all." Like, so logically, it's like it doesn't actually work from a gameplay perspective. Um, but no, that was like I watched that gameplay over and over and over again. And again, like I've joked with friends and nobody else thinks it's funny, but again going to the movies in college with my friends, seeing 40-year-old virgin, and they're playing Halo 2. And I'm sitting there nudging like, dude, that's the E3 demo that doesn't actually exist in the game. Like I know
Oh
exactly
my
what footage it
God.
was. It's like, and they're like, dude, shut up. Um, so I mean that's how much I watched that stupid video. But when it comes to a good recent memory, the Devil May Cry 5 reveal. That's always one of the first that comes to mind. Um,
Bro, oh, the reveal of that was just kino. It was so good because like the music hits, like it was the most hype trailer I ever saw. And then the game dropped in 2019, and I was like, dude, this game's incredible. And then Resident Evil 2, I think Resident Evil 2 remake dropped like the month before. Capcom was just like, oh, they were just on fire.
oh, Capcom's got their pace now. Exoprime was their first, I think, failure since this revival since RE7.
Yeah.
We could save that maybe for like next year's Ace next week's Ace Steve.
Actually, hold on. Let me check something real quick. Let me check something real quick. Um, no. I would argue that Exoprimal is their second failure since Resident Evil 7. Their first one is Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite.
That came out after 7?
Um September 19th, 2017.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
You're right. And even then Exoprimal's still better than that. Like Exoprimal
Yeah.
actually has like some really good mechanics and stuff. The problem being that it's a live service.
Yeah.
Like
It's a well, if it was a fleshed out experience, then it could have been a good live service game, but it's
yes.
like you're just railroaded the whole time, which sucks. I
Yeah.
was hoping Left 4 Dead with Overwatch elements, and I just get okay. You're gonna fight. You're gonna kill a whole bunch of dinosaurs here. Now you're gonna move over here and kill a whole bunch of dinosaurs here. Now you're gonna go here, and now there's an objective you have to play, and it's over.
It's it's
Cool.
it's nothing but Gambit from Destiny 2. So it's one game mode from Destiny 2. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's which is not good. If you're aping Destiny, you're destined to fail. Pun intended.
But no, when it comes to, I guess when it comes to bad memories, okay. So Mixture, cuz this is at the time it was an awful E3 moment, but I've I've got a fondness for it in hindsight just because of some of the effort, and also uh oh, I can't remember his name. Like I've got like five different Japanese names combining into one that are all wrong. Um,
Is it the
but
Konami one?
the Konami one,
Oh, dude.
because those firstly they just brought all these Japanese developers that couldn't even speak proper English, and they
Oh
were trying
man.
so hard. But Tak, I think was it just Tak Fuji? Is that his name? The guy that presented 99
Takefuji.
Nights 2.
Takefuji, I think his name.
Yes. Like because
Oh.
he directed Gal Metal, which I still haven't had a chance to play, but he goes up there to present 99 Nights 2, and his attitude I love because you could tell he just immediately is hostile to the audience. Because they were just because he's sitting there, like he gets up and he shows you know the game is like, come on, applaud, you know, like at least be polite. And from that point on, you could tell he
Japanese
hates the
Jeb
audience.
Bush.
You could tell you could tell from that point on he dislikes the audience, right? He's like,
It was a weird conference because it felt like it was a very small room.
it is,
Probably
it
because
was.
it was a small room.
Konami clearly could not afford a big room, so they got this small conference room, and I swear, because of the color of it, it's like I've been to rooms like that. I can smell that conference room. It's got this weird dusty smell to it. Like I can just smell it, just walking it, like just looking at it. But yeah, it's like they're trying to compete with the big stage events, but they're this tiny room, and
Ugh.
it's so awkward. And then you have like they were trying to advertise like the one wrestling game, and the wrestlers just keep slapping each other and are like being very I don't know, man. It's like,
they're
oh
they're
god,
being
they're being unruly.
they were overselling it. They
Yes.
were they were doing that thing that you do when you hate what you're doing, but you're just going too hard with it to I mean like nerdy as can be right now. It's like when Shawn Michaels and Hulk Hogan were having that match, all right, for WrestleMania, and Shawn Michaels was overselling everything and just pissing off Hulk Hogan. Like, he was actually just upsetting him the whole time. Because what I've learned is if you don't like what's going on and you want to express that rather than no sell, because that is just completely disrespectful. Rather than no sell, you oversell too hard. Like, Hulk would throw him out of the ring, and he'd just be flipping all over the place, holding his back in pain, and Hulk is just screaming at the referee. Just like, can you get him to stop, please? But anyway,
Oh man.
that's kind of what they were doing. Oh, dude, I
But
feel like that conference is what made Konami say, "Fuck video games, we're not doing this shit anymore."
well, if you recall, and I had the timeline wrong. I thought they actually did the first digital only stream, but after that, they basically teamed up with Mega 64 the next couple of years. But I still remember like one of their those digital presentations, they ended with a tease. It was just the Contra C, and then they
Oh
never
my
made
God.
they never made a Contra game. I just remembered that. Like I
Well,
was like,
until
well, no, they have at this point, but
yeah, and it was terrible.
well, they've made it because they got another one coming out or something with Way Forward or whatever. Like Konami's getting back into it, but no, it's like those last few years, Konami was like, F it, we can make more money off pachinko. And now there's evidently new laws in Japan that restrict pachinko, so they're like, F it, we're going back to video games. Like Like that's what I'm realizing. And also it's probably one of the reasons they were one of the first that are like, we're gonna do NFTs. Buy this Castlevania NFT. Nostalgia bait. They have their own store and it's like just some of the lamest clothing, but it's all so they could just sell their properties. Like Konami's an interesting company. I don't hate them like other people do. I find them fascinating. I don't trust them. Like it's,
I don't. I feel that most people hate them now just because of what they did to Hideo Kojima, and then I'm like, yeah, but like, how expensive were Kojima's games to make? Because if I was the CEO of Konami, and I'm like, I'm sorry, he wants how much money to create a video game? No,
it's not just that. Do you know how many years he wanted to stop making Metal Gear Solid? Like that was honestly the best move for both of them.
It honestly was.
Taking his name off of certain things, like his name's not going to be in the evidently his name's not even in the remaster collection. So that's kind of messed up. Or like taking his name.
That's real messed up. Good thing I have the remaster the PC release of the first Metal Gear Solid GOG, which is apparently a better version than what's on the collection.
Yeah.
And also, I have 2 and 3 on Xbox, which is the same exact versions on the new collection.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same exact situation. We should be wrapping this up though. So why don't you give your favorite E3 memories and then your worst E3 memory?
Okay. My favorite one that's a good one.
Hold on. I'm sorry. I just remembered. I can't remember if it was the PS4 ad or it was the PS3 ad. The worst moment of E3 because I can't even like forget it was a Sony ad and it was like the one dude that they must have just gotten him and he was stoned or drunk or something, but he was like if you don't get yourself a PS3, man, then I don't know.
Kennedy?
No.
Was that the Jamie Kennedy thing?
No, that was Ubisoft. No, this was like a commercial that they premiered at E3. And the dude's it's just some random dude off the sidewalk. And the thing is, it's so bad that I can't believe it's an actor. Because it feels like something some random dumb fratty skater boy would have said. Because he's just like, man, if you don't get yourself a PS3, then I don't know. And it's like, that's not the actual phrase. The I don't know is the part that sticks out to me. Because it's like,
wow,
who put that in there? like who thought that was a good idea? So that's the worst memory. Sony marketing.
All right, my favorite, honestly, was the reveal of Smash Brothers Brawl. Honestly, like the reveal of Smash Brothers Brawl was dope because it showed how like a bit of the graphical jump between Melee and Brawl. Except when they did it to Kirby looked exactly the same.
I don't remember that
Mario, Pikachu, and Kirby, and I think Link looked awesome. Mario looked awesome. Pikachu also looked better. Kirby, the same. He's just
probably part of the joke too.
It might have been, and that, like, dude, that game was like the hype around that game was insane. And then the end of the trailer. It has the codec conversation between Snake and Colonel Campbell.
That's
and then
right.
they reveal that Snake was in Smash. It was like, yo!
I remember
it's like
that
Pandora's
now.
box opened.
Okay, so what I remember more of anything is actually the website. And part of the reason I was working
the website was awesome.
I was working that summer for tech camp. And one of my students, like, this is how far behind it was, though. It's like, we're going to teach you how to make a website in Macromedia Flash.
Yes.
And yes, not Adobe Flash, Macromedia Flash.
Macromedia was better than Adobe, just saying.
Yes. But, like, we were helping them make their website and Flash animation. Does one of the kids, he wanted to make a Smash Brothers website, and he basically just ripped most of the assets right from the official Smash Brothers website. So that's where I remember most of the, like, they were updating with characters, moves, like music every week.
Yep.
It was a whole marketing blitz that they did with that. Yeah. The thing is,
It was cool. It was interactive. Like, it spoiled what the game was gonna have, but it was one of those things where it did such a good job at like stringing people along up until release.
yes.
The
My
Smash Dojo.
my
Loved
only
it.
problem was my college experience already ruined Smash Brothers. So I felt no hype. Like, I still bought it, but I felt no hype and I barely touched it.
Yeah, I wasn't in college and I wasn't playing with tourney
Sweaty
friends. Back
sweaty
then there was a
tourney people,
different
yeah.
F word and I will not say it on YouTube. Not repeated.
But that is a good memory though. And you know, funny, oddly enough, what you reminded me of, and it would have to be up there as well, is the Metroid Dread drop.
That was really good.
Because of a few reasons.
I guess E3 was still around in 2021.
I mean, I think that was the last one.
I think so, yeah. Which is really funny because that one had to be completely
because that was also Treehouse, and Treehouse was really good.
Yeah.
Nintendo's Treehouse was really good for an event like that. And that's the thing, again, like, nobody else updated correctly. Like, you could still do a physical event because Treehouse was nice to see people physically together, the developers there. Sony didn't do anything like that. Microsoft didn't do anything like that. IGN or GameSpot, like, they didn't have booths set up to do something like that. They basically just like, we're going to have you sit down and we're going to talk to you while the trailer repeats over and over and over in the background. It's like, no, play the stinking game, which is exactly what Nintendo Treehouse did. It's like,
that was so good.
And that's the thing, like, what is Jeff Keighley doing? Jeff Keighley is just like, trailer blast, like, marketing. I get paid money for every trailer we post, you know, like, it's, I mean, I don't know.
In short,
if that's
Jeff
actually...
Keighley, you have an opportunity. I know you're watching, Jeff.
Oh yeah, he's watching.
You have a
this,
chance.
He's watching this specific stream.
That would be really fucking funny.
That would be funny. It's like, what is this fat son of a gun really? But
who are these two fat guys, and why do they not like me?
Why are they being mean to me? No,
right, bad memory. Yeah, bad. Well, like, I'll go with funny bad. All right, like, and it's, and honestly, this is the obvious one, the infamous Sony PS3 conference. It was so. Oh, it was so bad. It was not a good way to try and showcase the console. It really wasn't.
And if you go back and try and watch it, you know what? No. Oh no, that wasn't actually E3. That was before E3. I'm sorry. I was just briefly thinking about the Xbox One reveal. TV.
Oh, that was bad.
That was not E3 though. That was before E3.
No. Yeah, that was like a different marketing thing. That was not good.
No, it wasn't. So that doesn't count as like the worst E3 memory, but that was about to be. Because I would honestly, as boring as that PlayStation 3 reveal was without memifying it, TV was worse.
It was. But the memes made it entertaining, and the awkwardness made it so entertaining. It's still referenced by anything to this day, as recently as on Apple TV. We got a third Sonic game this year called Sonic Dream Team. And there's a giant enemy crab robot that you have to fight in it. And they even just, like, Sonic just blatantly just calls it that. He just calls it a giant enemy crab.
That's
and like
lame.
It is lame, but at the same time, I look back at that and I'm like, what are you guys doing?
I am looking for
Like, what are you?
something.
They're just like fumbling about on stage awkwardly, and I feel bad for that guy just trying to showcase Genji 2 because that game was also not good. And it doesn't it oh man, they really they really are just fumbling about, man. Runner up to that was that the Wii losing Steam, and they reveal Wii Music, like we mentioned that. That was terrible. That was
Yeah.
terrible.
I mean, I always had weird feelings about what that was going to be. And sorry, I'm kind of multitasking because it's like I made a Wii 60 meme and I can never remember where I have it stored. Um, but it was in reference to that Genji 2 presentation. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's my sense of humor that, I find it funny and then everyone else is like, eh. But, no, yeah, you go ahead and talk because I already lost my train of thought.
And honestly, runner up good moment was Nintendo's conference covering the 3DS. The 3DS reveal I thought was really cool. I thought that was really cool because they really tried hard to explain how the thing works. And I was like, okay, do you have a lot of support? I want to check it out. I really want to check it out. And then they had all of these 3DSs and they were just going up the aisles and just showing people how it looked. And I'm like, okay, there's something here I need to experience. And then
Yes.
and then I went to GameStop and I looked at the 3DS and I turned on the 3D and I was blown away. I'm still blown away by it. I might have permanent eye damage because of it for all I know. Because I was I was one of those people that put on the 3D whenever I played a 3DS game.
All right, so
I thought it was a neat gimmick.
Here we go. Let's hide and transition. This is the meme I made for Wii60.com way back in the day.
I gotta see this. I am the meme master.
Yeah, it's probably absolutely trash, but it's just the first thing that had come to my mind. My young, youthful, exuberant, 20-ish year old. What was it, 2006? I would have been 20, 21 years old. And this is the first thing that came to my mind. And that's the thing, exactly. Like, for me, it's like, this is a hilarious idea. And everyone else is like, meh.
I mean, I'm not, busting a gut here, but it's accurate. It's one of those funny because it's true. But also, I feel like I've seen that before, and either you showed it to me a long time ago, or this was passed around somewhere.
If it was passed around somewhere, that would actually be great.
3DS was sick in 3D. Yes, it was, dude. Like,
I could never get it working right for me. That's the thing. Like, when it worked right, it was great, but I ended up playing with it off most of the time. And I think that's one of the reasons that Nintendo didn't pursue that further.
It was tough to pull off. I did try out like the new 3DS XL, like one of my friends had it, and the way it tracked your eye movement to keep the 3D going, that was pretty crazy.
Oh, I upgraded to one of those partially because it was just bigger, but it was still, I didn't. Anyways.
I almost did. I almost considered it, but it was bigger without a resolution upgrade, so I was like, nah, I'm good, bro. I'm good.
But it is appropriate we end this on a Godzilla meme I made too when I was like 17 years ago.
God, so long ago.
It was.
Yeah, I think we should definitely do there were good times and there were bad times with E3.
We'll try and find like clips of like good and bad memories, because the thing, most people look for the most memeable moments, but it's not just memeable moments. It really is sometimes just that, like, you find the reveal that's got like the crowd flipping out, Oh yes, the stinking Twilight Princess trailer that I
That was,
remember.
yeah.
I rewatched, but I was also like, "That's the music from Conan. That's the music from Conan. They used the music from Conan. That's awesome."
Did they really? That's funny.
Oh yeah, the one Twilight Princess ad they used. The song is Riders of Doom, and it is
Okay.
awesome. It is an epic tune, dude. That whole movie soundtrack is great. That whole movie is great.
I,
Watch Conan
you
the
know,
Barbarian. If you haven't watched Conan the Barbarian, watch Conan the Barbarian.
classic.
There you go.
And I can definitely show. Honestly, no. Forget everything I just said about my favorite moments, because my favorite moment involves some channel awesome guys, where Angry Joe and Spoonie were were outside and
Betrayal.
yeah, the
Betrayal.
XCOM FPS, and he's screaming, and Angry Joe's like, "Whoa, okay."
Oh my
Apparently, there was some
goodness.
fallout from that, where Lord Cat or Jason Pilara, he couldn't get any
That's what he
press
claims.
at E3 anymore.
That's
Yeah,
what
he
he
was probably-
claims.
Dude's kind of a pathological liar, but anyway,
He's also part of Channel Awesome. I mean, what do you expect? Like,
no, well, not anymore. He was the first to leave long before everybody else.
but no, like he blamed all of that on Stiggins. But it's like, dude, no, you couldn't talk to Notch because nobody cared who you were. It's that
Yeah.
simple. Like, he's the Minecraft guy. Of course you couldn't talk to, but no, it's like whatever. That's a whole other can of worms right there. And that's yeah. But all right,
That's
time to wrap
that's a
this
good
up.
note to end on.
Yep. As always, Joey, thanks for chatting.
Of course.
Don't know next time we'll do a rambling with a RamblePak. Again, we're hoping next Tuesday to be the final recording of A Steve. Yeah, maybe we'll use the old overlay with all the little graphic images, even though I can't bounce anymore.
Yeah, they're not allowed
But-
to.
Well, they just can't. I haven't been able to
Yeah.
fix that functionality. I tried following everything I could, but no. And of course, thanks AV Hobbies for joining. Thanks Zach for what time you were here, and for everyone that watches the archive. Thank you guys too. Hope to see you guys around again.
Take care, everybody. This was a good discussion.